Listen, I know who you're really here for. You're here for the puppets. I get it. I get it. They're funny. They're funny. I can't deny it. I'm jealous of them sometimes, but you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta play your part. Hey everyone. So today we're continuing the color sleuth, slowing it down slightly. That doesn't mean you can't continue on forward if you feel like you have time, but it's a pretty big step today. Originally I was going to do the next 2 sections, but I think it's better to really hammer it out now, because this is one where most of the points are when I eventually grade this, which I should probably actually share that rubric, but it's exactly as you're seeing. If you do every step, you can imagine what it looks like. It's just, do your buttons change color? Do you identify one button that changes? That kind of thing. Excuse me. So let's jump in. So at the end of, sorry, I was looking ahead a little bit. At the end of Tuesday's work, I'm not going to show what your full code should look like. Your code should look much longer than this. You should have a total of like 5 set properties total in there, each one for each of the buttons, changing the background color to be, your defined color. Then you should have something for diff color, which I don't show you here. You should have a bunch of different stuff based on the process through number 4 all the way up through roughly number 9. And then in 10 and 11, it's a lot of like squishing together stuff. You should have everything in a set board function. So this should look like yours. This will be different in here, but you should end with a console log, something like this, just to check it's an error check. It doesn't affect the game at all, but it shows you, the programmer, what the correct answer is, so you can visually check to see if the buttons are working properly. Putting in a function is also useful because we can now call this set board function whenever we want. And that will, whenever we call the set board, it'll be the same as clicking run and reset. Yeah, I'm getting errors because I just dragged a bunch of random stuff in there. It'll be the equivalent of resetting the game, which is huge for us. That's why we ended up putting in a function. So we're going to expand this today for seeing how to activate different buttons. Here we go, folks. It's the #1 most requested thing on YouTube. Move over, PewDiePie. This is got sock puppets now. Which one's which? Okay, Michael. Okay, great. We can produce random game boards. That's what I just said. What next? I think the next thing would be to add click functionality to the buttons. Yeah, where you click on a button, we check whether it's the right one or not. So we're going to need 4 event handlers, 1 for each button. Right. I'm thinking this would be a great time for another function. Whoa! That will save us from writing the same code over and over and over and over and over in the event handler. The function should, 1, check whether they hit the right button or not, and 2, update the score. Whoa, we haven't even talked about score yet. Oh, we should also change the game board every time a button is clicked too. Oops. Good thinking. We can put that in this function too, since it's called on every button click. Let me sketch out what I'm thinking. This is really good handwriting for a sock. So we got this board, right? Take a look at this. I got that function set board. We've already done that. We've done all these things. Make a random color, done. That's our variable color. Set all buttons to that color, done. Pick a random button, done. That's rand button ID. Set it to the different color, done. That's the different color variable. We did all that stuff. Awesome. This is the new stuff that we're putting in here. We're going to be creating something called function check correct. It's going to see if the correct button is pressed, and it'll update the score. We haven't talked about score yet. but this is the goal of this function. And importantly, this function will also at the end call setBoard to reset the function. So setBoard is the very first thing that's run. It starts the game, and then we can call it to basically reset the game after every round of clicking on the correct button. Then all these things are, for button 1, activate the check correct function. For button 2, activate the check correct function. Because when you click on it, you want to check, is it the right button? I get it. Cool. So now my question is, how will the function know which button is correct? Good question. Oh, what if we made ran button ID a global variable? Remember, global variable means at the top of the code, you declare it. You use the word var at the top. That way, every time setBoard is called, it generates a new random ID, and it becomes a global variable that any other function can look at. Here, let me add that to the sketch. So that's the stuff that's in red. You'll notice the change from up here. Oh, they didn't make it clear. Here's the exact code for ran button ID. Inside here, they're saying remove the word var, keep this stuff in there, but now add var ran button ID also to the top. So it's not moving. This implies movement. I don't like the arrow. All you're doing is removing the word var down here, adding the word var at the very top, and declaring this as a variable. And then down here, because it no longer has the word var, you're just changing it every time it runs. So it still exists. You set it up in the beginning, but every time you run it, you just change the value. It's the same as when we did r equals r plus 20. It's not a big deal. You're just changing the value when you get there. Cool. Okay, good. Ran button ID is actually the correct button to click in the game, and it's now a global variable. But now check correct needs to know which button was hit, so we can compare it to ran button ID. What if we gave check correct a parameter? Geez, we're hitting everything. That's why we're doing this before a little, end of unit test thing. What if we gave check correct a parameter? So if you call check correct button 3, for example, it checks whether button 3 is correct and updates the score. I see. Good idea. It seems pretty easy if statement to write if we compare the button ID passed to the function and ran button ID. Here, I'll sketch it out. A lot of sketching going on because it's complicated. But this is the thought process. This is why I'm not doing this because I love puppet theater. I don't. It's to show how this is going to work slowly. So here in red, what's new is we have a parameter for check correct. Remember what a parameter is. A parameter is that thing. It's when you define the function, we have it in parentheses, and then we can pass information to that, basically like substituting in algebra class. We're plugging in button 1 for when you click on button 1, you want to tell the function we chose button 1. So we're typing in the words button 1. And then it will check to see, is button ID, the one we passed it, the same as this value for the random button we created. And if it is the same, that means you click the right thing and update the score. Nice, but wow, that's a lot to change. True, but I'm glad we thought this out on paper first. I think we can do it. Yay! We shouldn't do it all at once though. We should do it in steps, and at each step verify that the change is working. Let's do that with console log messages. Yuck, yuck, yuck. At each step, we will add a console log message to verify that things are working, and we can remove them later if we want. Yeah, let's take it in pieces. I suggest add global var for correct button, add 4 event handlers, add function check correct ID, add if statement to verify correctness. Let's do it. Okay, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's that much stuff. Just be careful, right? It's not they basically give you all the code in the gray. If you take the time to slowly read it, you're not getting rid of this line. That's a common mistake people make every year. You're just adding just the empty var to the top and naming this rand button ID. And then later you're just getting rid of the word var inside of it, inside the function. And then you're going through and you're next adding an event handler. Remember, an event handler is on event. We haven't used those yet here. We can put it anywhere. I want to put it before the definition. We're going to add event handlers for each of the different things. Oh, they actually first they want you to make the function. Sorry. First, they want you to make the new function called check correct. So you add that down with the definitions. Call that check correct, and you'll add a parameter button ID. I'm basically just reading it directly from here. You're creating this new function with this information. You're adding 4 event handlers, one for each of the 4 buttons. So this one will be linked to button 1. And when I click it, I'm going to pass check correct button 1. And then you get this shows you what should happen when it works. Finally, we're going to be adding an if-else statement. Again, like this project hits everything. It's to show you what you can do with what we've learned. This if-else statement to check. If you got it right, if the button ID is the same as the random button, say to the console, you got it right. Else, wrong. A little harsh, but that's the idea. So it's pretty packed, but that's why I want to go a little slower. If you want to keep going, feel free. But this is what I'm going to be checking to see if we're on track for. If you need to reach me with, let me just present, sorry, before I jump to that. Google question, it's the same. What do you work on today? Just seeing if rephrasing it in your own words. And yeah, oops. So the big thing, if you have questions, easiest way, the best way, if you can't make office hours are the best. Sorry I missed the morning one yesterday. I overslept, honestly. I'm having as hard of a time with the schedule as you are, so I feel your pain. If you, the best way is office hours. But if that doesn't work for you, I am very responsive to Google Chat. I have it on my phone, and I actually respond to that. Emails are second best, but I get a lot of emails from work, and we're starting like programming and all the stuff for next year that I'm involved in. So sometimes my emails pile up a little bit. But chat is the best way to reach out to me if you have a question. Hang in there. You're doing great. You're doing great, kid. Bye.